This is just like Dark Souls. This is basically Dark Souls. This is just like Dark Souls. This is practically the same as Dark Souls. I don't know what this game reminds me of, but I think it's pretty similar to Dark Souls. It's very difficult. It's extremely hard. It's really complicated. It's very difficult. Difficult video games. Ever since Dark Souls was released in 2011, the topic of difficulty in video games has been a staple for every video game journalist. Serving as a spiritual successor to the 2009 Demon's Souls, Dark Souls improved upon the formula laid by its predecessor by providing players with a challenge that would haunt them in their nightmares. The game was very difficult, it had no minimap, it had non-linear storytelling, and an intricate combat system that required precision, timing, and memorization of patterns. Players would die a lot. This game resurrected the debate of how multiple difficulty options affect the gameplay. For many years, almost every AAA game had a variety of difficulty options, ranging from easy to I'm a masochistic maniac and a danger to society. In a way, the same game could appeal to both casual couch gamers and hardcore gaming veterans. A wider audience can lead to a game selling more units, thus making more money. So if you wanted your game to perform well, you needed to include multiple difficulty options. And here comes a game that not only doesn't have any difficulty options, but is also extremely challenging and punishing. So what does this mean? Are difficult games better? Should every game follow Dark Souls' strategy? Let us find out what makes a good difficult game. Whenever you jump into a hard video game, it shouldn't be long till you see your first death screen. In contrast to many other games where dying is a symbol of failure and discouragement, hard video games should in fact celebrate failure. Dying is a way to learn on your mistakes and get better. In video games. A good hard video game should be able to find a balance between being extremely easy and crazy hard. You should fail just the right amount, so that right when you're about to quit because you truly believe you couldn't possibly get any better at the game, you beat the shit out of Pinwheel after trying for 7 consecutive hours. Which leads us into bosses in video games have proven to be the best way to test your progress and reward you for committing to the game. A boss almost always marks the end of an area and gives you a sense of closure on something that you've been playing for the last 5 to 70 hours. The perfect example of well-crafted boss fights is the 2017 hit Cuphead. Taking elements from classic hardcore platformers such as Mega Man and Contra and combining them with the style of 1930s cartoons, while summoning like a million different bosses, makes Cuphead a truly phenomenal experience in the age of open world RPGs and battle royales. Each boss in Cuphead has its own unique moveset and a series of phases. With each death in Cuphead, you learn something new, and eventually you'll just finally get close enough to hitting the sucker with a knockout punch. Whenever I sat down to play Cuphead, I always try to beat one boss and end the session, just so that when I put the console down, I feel excited and accomplished. It's practically undebatable that the more effort you put into something, the more joy it will bring you when it's said and done. Video games are definitely no exception to the rule. Although I truly love GTA 5, it never made me feel like I accomplished something while playing it. Probably because I always spend 4 hours punching random strangers. But when you spend time and effort patiently dying over and over again, the feeling of finally beating the boss will be incomparable to anything else for a minute or two before you realize how much time you actually spent playing a dumb video game. But hey, there's always the next boss. Well, unless you beat the game. But let's be honest, if you beat the game, you're probably done with this bullshit. No, difficulty settings are not bad. If you make a good game, it's only natural for you to want more people to enjoy it. It's just that the experience that one person will be having while playing on the easiest difficulty will be much different from the experience another person is having on the hardest difficulty. Sure, your experience of the story and the characters will probably be the same, but your appreciation of the combat system or the world building will probably be different. But it's also wrong to say that the games that have multiple difficulty options are in any way less rewarding than the games that are hard by default. In fact, playing Witcher 3 on Death March won't be much easier than beating a Souls game. It's just that These games are taking a risk by making getting good the only way to progress the game without giving you the option to pussy out by choosing baby difficulty. And this risk is appreciated by players all around the world. That risk is why the games became so beloved. They are kinda like drugs, but in a good way. Ever since you get your first kick from beating a boss, you won't be able to stop. So if you're still wondering if starting a notoriously difficult video game is worth taking a risk, short answer, yes. Long answer, yeah.